Growing up, going to church a lot, I got to know two categories of kids, PKs and MKs. And if you have been in the church at all, you know a PK is a pastor's kid and MK is a missionary kid. I always got a kick out of that, so I'd often introduce myself to people as an MK and let them make the assumption I was a missionary kid, but the truth was my dad's a mechanic. So I am an MK, but M is a mechanic's kid. You know, you got it. For those of you who haven't met my dad personally, Jerry, the best way to describe him would be like if you crossed Steve McQueen with John Wayne and they had a baby, that would be my dad. He had the best of both of those personas. Larger than life, way cool, not even aware of it, and a force to be reckoned with, but not someone you would really want to trifle with or cross. Yeah, that's my dad. Some of my earliest memories of my dad are basically looking up from the ground at his rear end as he was leaned over into the engine compartment of our late 60s model Charger with a big engine in it, which was apparently breaking down all the time, as high performance engines do. And so Dad was always tinkering with it, and I would play around his feet in the driveway and listen to him, yell and complain at the car. Apparently he had a nickname for the car, or so I thought, because one day I was inside the house and my mom said, "Hey, do you know where Dad is?" I said, "Yeah, Mom, he's outside working on the son of a bitch Charger." And my mom, "What? What did you say?" I said, the green one, the son of a bitch Charger, because that's what I heard him call it. I had no idea what that meant, but found out quickly that that's not a nickname I should use in public, right? Well, apparently the first car that my dad really fell in love with as a young man and working with high performance cars and race cars was a 1964 Dodge Polara, I think with a 440 motor in it. And my dad, who was incredibly mechanically inclined and had been working on farm equipment and tractors, repairing those since he was 9 years old or something, was asked to help prepare the engine and get it ready for racing on somebody's 64 Polara. And so that was his first real racing love. And although he worked on many cars and drove many cars throughout his life, that was the one he always dreamed about. So fast forward, 50, 60, how many years? 70 years. My two brothers, Dan and Scott, conspired to really recreate my dad's first love. And one of my dad's longtime friends, almost like an uncle to me, was Robert Carlson, who collects cars in all shapes and sizes and states of repair. And Scott heard or found out somehow that Robert had a 64 Dodge Polara in his collection. And so Scott asked Robert if he'd be willing to sell. And Robert said, "Well, sure, it's not really in perfect driving condition," but Scott explained, "Well, I'd love to buy it and have it restored and then give it to Dad as a surprise." And Robert, he was all into that. He's like, "Yeah, of course, I'll do anything I can to help." So Scott was the money, and then Dan was the mechanical genius. And so Scott would periodically send funds to Dan, who was given the car after Scott bought it from Robert. And then Dan would do the work and made sure that it was perfect, right? And Dan tells the story that Dad, of course, who was going to come over to visit Dan from time to time, would ask about the Dodge. He's like, and talk about how he really loved that kind of car. And Dan played it off that, well, this was one of Robert's cars, and Robert asked him and was paying him to restore it. In fact, he would ask Dad for advice as to exactly how things should be, because Dad knew every detail about that car. And Dad was happy to contribute his knowledge to it. And Dan knew that he was really in love with the car, but Dad, being very modest, would never think that he could ever have one, right? So then fast forward, I think this process lasted the better part of a year. I don't know exactly how long, because I was kind of monitoring the whole situation from California, and this was all going on back in Billings. And then Dad, who loves to go to the drag races, which was part of our childhood experience, and Dan kind of working out the details as to when the car might be ready, kind of it all came together, and Dan realized if he worked really hard and fast and everything fell into place, that he could have the car ready for the last drag races of the year, which turned out to be on a Sunday and Father's Day. And so Dan just felt like that was meant to be. So Scott poured in the money, Dan poured in the time, and got other people involved. And then on Father's Day, out at the races, with a camera crew from the local TV station, gathered around with the family, all dressed in emblazoned apparel that said MCC Racing, MCC for McCarthy. And this was really my contribution to the story, is that Dan and Scott invited me to create a logo for the apparel, the mock racing team for our family. So we worked together. I created the logo. Dan ordered shirts and decals, put one on the car and underneath the hood, and special racing shirts for my dad and his wife Donnie, my stepmom. And so Dad was oblivious to all of this, right? Going out to the races, and they pull the car up, and the family gathers around, and the camera crew is there, and Scott and Dan proceed to tell Dad, "Happy Father's Day, we have a gift for you," and hand him the keys to the '64 Dodge Polara, which now was in perfect condition. And my dad, I wish I had been there, but you can tell, even in the video clip from the news crew, that my dad was dumbfounded. In fact, he couldn't really process what was going on, because that was the furthest thing from his mind. I mean, he believed that the car was being restored for Robert, right? And never in his wildest dreams would he have dreamed that this would be a gift for him. And so it took a while before it really sunk in, and this surreal experience became a reality. And Scott and my sister Viv give Dad a hug, and Dad then proceeds to race the car one time down the track that day on Father's Day. Since then, they've continued to tinker on the car, and it's Dad's pride and joy. He loves driving it around town. And my brother Dan, who's again a mechanical genius, has made this incredibly high horsepower engine that makes the car as faster and more powerful than any car my dad had ever driven before, yet so mechanically sound that Dad can drive it around town and fill it up with regular gas, and of course have fabulous conversations with the people at the gas station, like, "Ooh, what is that kind of car? Where'd that come from?" And then Dad will proceed to tell the story. And in fact, Dad has been stopped several times by people who say, "Isn't that the car from the news story? Wow, what a great story." And Dad, being Dad, he doesn't brag about the car, he brags about his family and the wonderful act of love that they performed. I wish I had been more involved and could have been there on hand, but just the fact that these are my brothers and my dad, and the story is priceless, makes me so proud and so happy. And so here's the news clip that they produced from the local news station. Enjoy.
Time now for sports with Casey Conlon.
It's racing season in Montana. The BMP has been up and running for about a month now, and today the Yellowstone Drag Strip kicked off their summer series with the Ed Randash Memorial Race, but that was far from the only excitement out in Acton. Brothers Dan and Scott McCarthy threw the surprise of a lifetime for their father, Jerry. Back in the 60s, Jerry drove a white '64 Dodge two-door, and that has remained his dream car to this day. So in March 2015, Scott called family friend Robert Carlson, who just so happened to own a very similar '64 Dodge, a Coronet 440, and asked if he would sell it. Robert said yes, and for the past year and a half, Dan tirelessly pulled their dad's dream car apart and put it all back together. Now, throughout the process, they even asked for their father's input, while Jerry thought they were building it back up for a friend, until today. In front of family and friends, Scott and Dan gave their dad an early Father's Day present, the title and keys to his new old ride.
The build-up for it was incredible, and just to watch his eyes as he didn't fully grasp it, and then he finally started the realization started to come through. It was pretty incredible. I don't know how to describe it. It's a lot of work and a lot of time that's finally come to fruition.
It's just unbelievable. I had no clue, and I never expected anything like this. I'm just proud of my family.
As this started getting closer, I realized this is about the most epic event of my life. The birth of my kids were the biggest event of my life, but this is the most epic. nothing like this could ever be imagined or dreamed.
I saw the car, but I just thought it was, you know, it was an awesome car, but me and the car not together was never even a concept I thought of. So it's beyond belief. I don't know what to say.
Now, the car has not been driven since 1975, but Jerry promises to take it for a very careful spin around town. Great story there.